Good day! In this video, I'm going to discuss the processes and some parts of two Python programs. The first one is a Python program that uses array implementation of stacks, as well as tkinter, a graphical user interface or GUI that allows the program to be more interactive, with the user using different buttons and forms. This program will be a simulation of a notebook checker, which has 5 options or 5 buttons, such as add a notebook, check a notebook, peek at a notebook, check all notebook, and of course the exit button. Okay, so now let's take a look in the source code. First, we have implemented class array stack. Under this class, we have function initialization of an empty stack. Next one is function len, which returns the length of the stack. Function array, which creates an array. Function push, this is to add an item to the list. And function peek to return the item at the top of the stack. And of course, function pop to remove the item at the top of the stack. Eventually, this class array stack will be assigned to a new variable we call new_stack. And that's the variable that we're going to use in the entire program. Next is the implementation of class notebooks. This is for the visual representation of the notebook checker program, whereas the PNG file for the notebook is placed depending on the conditions presented. Right here, we equate xrand to randint 285295. This has the idea of not placing the notebook in a very perfect and organized manner. As for the conditions provided, if the counter is equals to 1, meaning the first notebook to be placed, this will be the value of x, y with height. And if the counter is greater than 1, the y coordinate will be changed. And this is the process that we have created. Next is the functions for the commands of the buttons. In executing these functions, we will initialize counter to 0 and notebook_list as a blank list. First function is function add notebook. This one accesses the counter from outside the function and simply display this box that will require the user to input a name for the notebook. If the user did not input any name, then this message box will be displayed. If the user did input a name, then the counter will be incremented. It will be added to new stack and also notebook_list. And as you can see here, we have a limit that the items inside the stack will be less than 15. If this condition is already met, then this message box will be displayed. Next one is function rem notebook. This one is for the button check a notebook. It removes a notebook in the top of the stack, meaning we will use the function pop, right? This one, pop -1. If the counter is 0 or the stack is empty, this one will be displayed. And if not, then it will remove the top of the stack and decrement the counter. Next one is peek notebook. This one is for displaying the name of the notebook on the top of the stack. As usual, it accesses the counter, and it also has this condition: if counter is 0, then this message box will be displayed. If not, then the process will then begin. It uses the function peek from the class array stack. Last one is the function check all. This one is just like the remove function, but this function removes and checks all the notebook present in the stack using for loop in range with the length of the list or stack. This one. Now this part shows the main program with GUI. First is we import the array module, this one, and also the tkinter module, and some of its functions such as simple dialog and message box. After that, we're going to create a new window with size, title, icon, and this code that disables the minimize and maximize button. Next is we place the background image. This one is for the PNG file of the background image. Yep, that's the X and Y coordinate of it. And after that, we're going to create buttons for the main menu. All right, as you can see here, we have the commands. And those commands also came from the functions that I have discussed and mentioned before. And as for the exit button, we have the command root.destroy. This one closes the window of the application. And lastly, root.mainloop. This enables the program to run the application. Okay, now let's try running the program and have a little demo of our GUI or graphical user interface. Okay, so this is what our application looks like. We have here the title of the window, notebook checker, the icon. This is the background image, and as you can see here, these are all the buttons that we have created. We have the add notebook, check notebook, peek at notebook, check all, and exit button. Right, so now let's try the add notebook button. Okay, so now I've inputted at least 15 notebook. Let's try to input one more. Okay, stack is full, check a notebook. Alright, now let's try checking a notebook. Eva's notebook is being checked. Let's try peek at notebook. That's Mondragon's notebook. Okay, Mondragon's notebook is being checked. Alright, let's check some more. Robert's notebook. Now let's try the check all button. Okay, Daniela's. Alright. Okay, stuck is null, add a notebook. Stuck is now add a notebook. And now let's try to click the exit button. Now I'm going to discuss the second program, which is a Python program that uses linked list implementation of queues as well as tkinter, a graphical user interface or GUI that allows the user to sign up for a consultation, enter the room, begin a consultation, a closing time, and to exit the program. Now let's take a look at the source code. First is the implementation of the class node. It initializes the item to data, or the value of the node, and the next node to none. However, this code is for accessing the counter outside the function or class. And as you can see the codes here, these are mainly for the GUI of patients in the application. These are for the position of labels, details in labels, and the PNG file that will be used for the representation of patients in the GUI. Next is implementing a class for linked list. These initialize the start node to none. We have function in queue, which takes a data to be added or pushed in the list. Next is the function enter, which displays the details or data of the first patient in line. Then the function dequeue that dequeues or remove a patient, the first in line, in the list. Both the queue and enter has this condition: when there's no current patient, a warning message will be displayed. Last is the function move GUI that moves the image representing the patient. Next are the codes of the commands for the button. In executing these commands or functions, we're going to use two main variables, which are myQueue and counter. The first function we have sign up function. This allows the user to input the name and concern of the patient. It also adds the patient or the data to the linked list. If the conditions are not met, warning messages will be displayed, such as blank or cannot be blank for empty input, and please follow format for not following the format provided. The number of patient in line is also limited only to 5, and if the NQ exceeds, a message box will also be displayed. Then we have the function enter, which shows the details of patient that is first in line. Then the function begin that dequeues or remove a patient, the first in line, in the list. Next one is the function closing. It loops with counter as the number of times and use the dequeue function in class linked list. In simple terms, it just removes all the patient from the queue or removes the data from the linked list. For the function enter and function closing, we have there a condition. If counter is less than 0, then this message box will be displayed, warning no current patients. Now let's move on to the main program with GUI or GUI. First, we import tkinter and some of its functions, such as simple dialog and message box. Then we create a window with size, icon, title, such a customization, and also we're going to place the background image. And after that, we're going to customize the buttons taking the functions we created earlier as the commands. As for the button for exit, we have the code root.destroy that enables the window to be closed. Lastly, we have the code root.mainloop. This allows the application to be executed. Okay, so now we're going to test run this program. Alright, and there we go. This is what our application looks like. We have here the title, doctor's consultation, the icon, and the buttons, and of course the background. Okay, so now let's start with sign up for doctor's consultation, and then this small message box will come out. Let's put some patients. Alright, so I've inputted at least 5 patients for this application. Let's try to input one more. Okay, so this warning message box will be displayed. Enter room, first in line and fever. Let's begin a consultation. Now let's try to input a patient but not following this format. Okay, so for example, alright, please follow any, cannot be blank. Okay, so now let's try the closing time, and all the patients were suddenly gone. Alright, and there you have it. Now let's click the exit button.